Welcome to another edition of Beavertown Outdoors. Out here at the beautiful Beavertown compound and in the beautiful Beavertown barn. So today, another episode from in the barn. It's cold out. Actually, it's cold in here. It's warmer outside than it is in the barn right now. I could light the wood stove, but I only got a little bit of time. By the time I get it warmed up and everything, then I'll have to leave it with the fire burning, and I don't like to do that. Wouldn't like for a fireman to get make the newspapers for burn down his own barn. That might not be good for the career. We're just saying. So anyway, today, last video we did fix the snow blower, got it hooked up, got that going good. So this one, I'm gonna do what I was hoping to do in one video. This ended up being two. We're gonna sharpen up our chainsaws and get them ready for next weekend. It's been a busy weekend, so I didn't get to cut this weekend, but it still was a little cold yesterday, and I had a lot of stuff to do, and I gotta do it today, so because I gotta work tomorrow. So we're gonna do the chainsawing today, and or not chainsawing, but we're gonna get the chainsaws ready so we can do it next weekend when it's gonna be 40 some odd degrees in the middle or at the beginning of February. We've gone from below zero wind chills and degree temperatures to we're going to go to 40 degrees and rain, 40s, mid to high 40s even. Crazy winter, crazy weather. So, last time you saw me cutting, I ran this through. She was kind of dull. It was cutting weird. She was chattering. I don't think I had the teeth cut that even. So we're going to try sharpening this a different way. Normally I use my Oregon bench grinder. That's all I had, either that or my Easy Sharp files, which those are still good. But now I've got a third weapon in the arsenal. And those of you that watch Chris in the Woodyard have seen one of these before. EzzDoo. Actually, when I read the instructions, that you're supposed to pronounce it as two Z's. EZ2 do. So we're gonna see if this is getting easier. So my thought is I'm gonna use the EzzDoo, whatever you call it. I'm gonna use that for when we're dull, but we didn't break a tooth or really chew a tooth up. As you can see, we're dull, but I don't have any bent over tips or anything like that. Maybe a little bit. But she just needs a good heavy-duty sharpening, and, I'm not a filing master, so, I use the Easy Sharps, which those work good, but we're going to try the EzzDoo, easy to do, and try to give this a sharpen. So we got it here, and I know Dremels can be better. Dremels are better. This is Chinese, I know, but somebody's got to pay for their spy balloon program. If you watch the news, you know what I'm talking about. So there's two options. You can use it with or without the guide. The guide is meant for holding your angle, but also to keep you at the right depth. I don't have a problem following the angle, but sometimes I get in a hurry and I start going at the, getting a little too deep and nicking the chain, nicking the part that puts the chain together. I know there's a term for it. I'm blanking on it, but so we're gonna try it with the guard and see how it does. I've played with this a little bit. As you can see, it's dirty. And I've used it without the guard, and I was able to do it, but like I said, I was starting to get a little too deep. And this guide or guard helps you to gauge the angle, which you just line that up there. But it also keeps you, and you can kind of see, focus, please. Okay. So, there we go. So, but it rides on here, and it keeps you from getting down too deep. So I'm hoping that's going to improve me a little bit from the first time I used it. And like I said, I got the chain sharp first time I used it, but like I said, there's a couple spots where I got a little bit too far down. So we're going to give this a shot. We're going to switch to the other camera. Well, actually not right this second. First thing we're going to do is, with chain brake off, We're gonna pick a tooth. Now this is steel chain. Husqvarna chain has gone to putting a gold tie bar in, or gold link in. Gives you a starting point. That's really convenient. Steel doesn't do that, unfortunately. But it's not the end of the world. I'm gonna go over here because we're using it for other things. But we got a professional Sharpie. These are really nice. They'll mark. They are definitely not ones you want to use in an enclosed space, because they're potent on their fumes they give off. But these will mark on just about everything. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just pick a tooth, and this one looks like a winner. We're just gonna mark it, make it red. I'd rather make it red with marker, not with my blood. There we go, I marked 2. That way I got 1 in each direction. So, all right, so we're gonna switch, and we're gonna get the EzzDoo going, and we're gonna try giving her a sharpen. So we're gonna put some gloves on so we don't cut ourselves. All right, we're gonna get the EzzDoo going. We're gonna get started. Went through it. Sorry I wasn't as mindful. I was trying to get good close-ups of this. It does feel nice and sharp, boys and girls. And then we look here. We'll look here. Again, focus, please. I don't know if you can see it real well. But you shiny chrome again. That's what we're supposed to look for. Alright, so now we're going to move on to doing the rakers. Okay, so we're going to check the depth gauges now. And so we got this little tool. I'm going to try to get it to focus in here. So you take this and you see if it's above it. Now that one's good. But what I did notice, whether it's through my filing ignorance or not, is they're not even. They're below it. But especially on them side to side. See, I can feel that one. So they're not quite even. So normally, you know, just check them with this. If I see they're needing it, you know, just use the file. And one thing to note, these files, again, if we can focus, these are a special file for doing depth gauges. And what is special about them is they're just like a normal flat file, and I guess you could use a normal flat file this size. But what's nice about these, I don't know if I can get it to, there we go. There's no serration on the sides. So the reason that's important is so that if you're filing your depth gauges and you get a little, I don't know, I guess not lazy, but you get a little careless and you touch that tooth, if you had the serrations all the way on the side like you do on a normal file, you're going to carve into that tooth, and now you're going to have to redo that tooth. So if you can, they're not expensive. I think this thing is like $5, the gauge and the file. And, you know, use these files. That way if you don't have an accidental dulling of your tooth. But that said, because I'm finding the depth gauges, for whatever reason, aren't even, and I think that's why I was chattering the last time I was cutting, I'm actually going to put this over onto the Oregon, because I can set that up with the wheel for doing depth gauges. And we're going to do, that way I can set it at the lowest depth gauge that I currently have, set it for that depth, and then I'm just going to make them all even across the board. That way we'll have a fresh start on everything. This chain it won't be like brand new, but at least the depth gauges will all be even. That should get rid of that chattering next time we're cutting. Okay, so I've already got the chain off and figured out which one of my depth gauges is going to be the one I'm going to set to. So to set up the Oregon grinder to do depth gauges, the first thing you want to do is, normally you do a 60-degree angle. For depth gauges, we're doing an 80-degree. So you take, I'm going to try to do this one-handed. You loosen this, and then you move down, not to 90, but you see the little arrow points to 80. And it says 70 to 80. I just do 80. It works. But see, you got the little arrow, and it lines up with 80 degrees. And then you set this angle, loosen her up, set that to 0 with no down angle. Okay, so now you're 90 degrees. Now the thing is this wheel doesn't work for doing depth gauges. I guess it could, but there's actually a wheel 4 depth gauges. And that one, extreme close up here, okay? So we got this one. This one's for doing depth gauges. And you dress it at the angle, the 80-degree angle. Yeah, you really can't see it that well. But we're gonna switch out wheels to this one, and then we're ready to go. We just set her up to the depth, which I'll show you that in a minute. But I gotta change the wheel out first. So here we go. All right, so to change the wheel, we gotta take the safety cover off. Safety third, as we know. A couple screws here. And I know some people probably just take these off and forget about it just because it takes time. I get it. But unless I absolutely can't do something with a guard, I like to use the safety equipment that it comes with. So here's the Allen wrench. Hope you can see it there. That's the Allen wrench for in here. So we take, and that is not the Allen wrench for in here. That's the Allen wrench for there. I don't know what that one's for. I'm sure there was something. Okay, and then on here there should be a lock. Well, I'm sure there's a lock, but I forget where it's at. And this works just as well. Just hold it. You know, you're not putting a whole lot of grinding resistance on, so generally this doesn't have to be super tight. Now, make sure I have it in the right direction. The label's facing out. And I'm sure you're getting this. Okay, get it onto the spindle. Tighten your screw up. And then we just hold onto the wheel. Hope it doesn't slip because that hurts. Give her tight. Good. Alright, then we just get our guard back in like thusly. Tighten the screws back up. Got it started. There's one. Let's start the other one. Alright, there we go. We'll bring her down. These don't have to be stupid tight. Just enough. Just enough hold on. Alright, so we got that. And then lastly we're going to, and I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. It's a nice thing with this camera is I actually have a zoom. Tilt you down here. So the last thing we got to do is obviously we got the stop. And I want to set my stop so that I'm not doing a tooth. I'm doing the depth gauge. So it's going to be way back. Just keep going. Okay. Almost all the way back. There we go. And we're on the depth gauge. Alright. Good deal. Okay. So we just set it to where it's there. Tighten the little lock nut so we don't move. Okay, and then double check. We'll clamp it down, double check. And as I said, this is already the one that's the lowest. So that's the tooth we're going to set everybody to, depth gauge wise. And I'm going to mark this tooth. Okay, and yes, that can get confusing, you know. But by the time when you use the chain and cut, the nice thing about the Sharpie is eventually it'll wear off. You won't see it, so I can have that third mark there, and it's going to be gone by the time I get through a tank of gas. So, anyway, this was the tooth I found to be the depth gauge I found to be the lowest. So we're going to set that depth, and to do that, I'm actually going to have to pull you guys out here. Okay, so there's a depth adjustment right down here. Okay, so it's a stop. Let's see if we can get... So right now we're stopping on that tooth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust that. We're going to go for a little ride here. Okay, so we're going to adjust this. I know you can't see well, but I'm going to hold it there. And I'm going to adjust that stopper until she's tight on it. And that should not let me go any deeper than that tooth. Okay, so we can test it. Anybody, as Dalio says, anybody can do it with power. So I gotta get my cord here. Pull this out. You know, I try to clean this barn. Alright, there we go. Alright, so we're gonna plug in to our power here. Alright, and then nice thing with this grinder, does have a light. Okay, so we're going to check. And see, we don't touch unless we really, when we put a little bit of pressure on it, it touches. So that means the rest of them, once we get to that point, they'll just adjust, it'll just go to town. So we'll adjust them up. So I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to try to reset you guys up, and so you can watch me do this. Okay, so we loosen. Then the next one. Okay, next. Okay, that one's good. That one chattered a bit, but we're alright. We don't want to heat it up, because we still want to be able to file it, so we don't want to harden these. We just want to get them on the same depth. Okay, I don't know why we're doing that way. We'll go that direction. Okay, so just a little bit. See, as these come out, that one should be, yeah, I think it's at one side, which also explains why it was kind of cut and crooked on me. And no steel haters, no, it's not because it was a steel saw. It was operator error on grinding these, or filing the followers, depth gauges. So the nice thing is, once we do this, they'll all be the same. As long as I'm a little more careful filing them. We should be good. Okay, good. See, we just go all the way along. That one was really off. think this is the one that's causing me to chatter. Here. I don't know if you can see it. You kind of get that same width of how much kind of flattens out. We're just going, not doing it super hard for a long time, just enough until it stops throwing sparks. Like I said, don't stay on one tooth too long, or else you get to where they'll heat up and then they don't want to file nice. I think those just had a little burr on them. That's got to be what's going on. And didn't need much. The aim on this one is trying to, with the depth gauges, is trying to be consistent. If you're not consistent, she'll chatter, she'll cut crooked, and that's what we don't want. So that's what we're trying to correct, was them being uneven. Not trying to make them more uneven. That would need a lot of help. Almost there. Thank God. Okay, see now there's two. So I had the one which luckily it's farther away. So these two, I know that's not the end of my line. The end of my line's a couple teeth down. See, I'm just letting off pressure. Just to keep from overheating it too much. Like I said, she's not as finicky as teeth, but still want to make sure I can file these. And this should be, yep, there's the end. If we did it right. Yep. Alright, that's it. So now, just let her spin down, and we'll put her back on the old saw. Always make sure you put your chain in the right direction. I have seen people put them on backwards. It's not conducive to cutting well, or being healthy for your chain. Okay, get it. We are started in there. Let's get it along this bar. Get along the bar there. Get the seat in. Good. Okay. This is a newer chain, believe it or not, so she's a little... She ain't been stretched very far. So we gotta get her on the sprocket, which sometimes you gotta double check yourself because you don't have it in that sprocket. See, I've got it on the edge. I don't have it in the sprocket. You gotta get it in the sprocket, or else you're gonna fight it the whole. It's gonna fight you the whole way, and you won't be able to get on, and you will hate yourself. You'll hate your saw. Yeah, just take the time. Make sure it's in there. That's why we loosen a lot. There we go. And then steels, you got to get it onto the steel's tensioner screw is built into the side of the saw. Husqvarna's they're on the case. The Dolmar on the saw. So some schmutz out of here. Alright, and then this saw can be a little tricky because you got to line up the follower. Actually, oh, got it the first shot. How about that? And then get your bar nuts. Take the gloves off. Get them started. Don't tighten them too much, or else you're gonna have trouble and you're putting a lot of strain on your adjustment screw. And you don't want to break that. That's annoying. Annoying would be an understatement. So, one of the things too, when you adjust your saw, when you adjust your chain, you want to get, and there's lots of discussion on this, so it's not mandatory. This is what I do. Okay? I always keep this pulled up, because 9 out of 10 times, I'm cutting firewood, I'm cutting down. I don't do a lot of upcuts. Okay, so I don't want to get into wood and then have this saw, have it come up and loosen the chain up. So what I do is I put it, you can't really see, I put it in the bar vise on the bench. When I'm doing this on the bench, out in the field I just kind of hold it up, rest the tip on whatever, and then we adjust with the break off. We just adjust. Make sure it goes in there. Keep testing it, make sure she moves freely. Okay. Alright, then we tension it. Now, some people can do it by feel. I can. But just to show you, the trick I learned for testing the tightness of your chain is you're actually supposed to use a nickel, but even a quarter works. Is take a coin, go to the center of your bar, put it in there, tighten until your screw stops, not reefing it down. I'm sure you could force probably the actual whatever the tooth is that runs through the gears. I'm sure you could force that through a coin, depending on what the coin is. But do that, and then see, we're holding the tip up, so that way now we know this is where it's going to be when you press, if you get into the wood. Okay, and then you just tighten your screws up. So you can see here. Now this doesn't take Hercules to do, but you want them tight. Okay, so before you really tighten it down, again, make sure she can move. There'd be just a slight bit of resistance there. Okay, it shouldn't just freewheel, but it should have just a little bit of resistance. Now, this is a cold chain, cold saw. If you've been running and you're adjusting, okay, and you tighten this up, because she will stretch when she heats up. If you tighten this while it's hot, at the end of the day when you're done cutting or when you're giving it a break, loosen your adjuster back up. Okay, they actually tell you that in the instructions for the saws, for the chains, even on videos. From Steel, Husqvarna tells you the same thing. Loosen your chain up when it's hot. That way when it cools off, it shrinks. You don't have it permanently stretched. If you keep this taut while it's hot, when it cools down, that's going to be the new normal for it. That's how you stretch out a chain to the point where you can't adjust them anymore. So, if that matters to you, which matters to me because I want my chains to last as long as possible. We fell out of our clamp here. That's what I do. Doesn't have to be what everybody does. You do you. But I like to have my chains last as long as possible, and I've got a couple that when I was new to using saws, I tightened them up like that when they were stretched. I left them tight when they were hot, I should say, and then they got so stretched they were pretty much useless. So, see, now we're tight. Bar doesn't move. Chain can move freely. Brakes on. That's it. We're sharp. Run your without gloves on. See, you'll catch your fingers. Sharp like cat's claws. So I think these dude did good. We're sharp. We're good to go. Guess we'll find out in the next video when I actually go do some cutting. Alright, so there was some sharpening of chainsaw chain with EzzDoo, or EzzDoo, whatever. Worked well. Find out how well when I actually go to cut with it. If hopefully it's as sharp as it looks and it feels, and we'll do good. And then we end up, like I said, we end up grinding on the Oregon, doing the to level out the depth gauges. So hopefully now going forward, you know, when I file them or when I use the EzzDoo and I just set the depth gauges with the hand file. I can keep them even. I don't know how I end up getting that way with them. You know, I've usually only ever filed them with the 2-in-1 or doing on the Oregon before. Didn't usually set the depth gauges by hand. Guess I got a little, something happened there. I don't know if I was doing what Dad does and pressing too hard with the 2-in-1s or whatever, but we should be good to go now. You know, lessons learned. But anyway, so that's going to do it for this episode, guys. If you like what you saw, please hit the like button. Please feel free to share. And definitely please subscribe. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. Until then, take care of each other. Be safe. I'm out.